Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Andrea Kita and I'm a folklorist. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about folklore collection, but specifically the concept of text, texture, and context. So when we actually collect items of folklore, there are three big things we're looking for, and that's the text, the texture, and the context. So let's start with text. So the text is pretty easy for doing something like hearing a story or collecting a folk song or something along those lines. It's the actual text of the item itself, so the exact thing that's being spoken. If you're talking about something that's more material culture, it's a little bit harder to talk about because the text itself then becomes the actual physical thing. So it could be something like a quilt or something other things that people make. So that will actually be your text then, and then you're going to have to describe it. So you might have to talk about color and texture and like what it looks like and how it's used and all that kind of stuff. So that actually I started to get into our context already with how it's used. So the context is pretty much everything that's surrounding that particular piece of folklore, that text itself. So it can be things like how is it used? When was it made? When was it created? Who gets to hear that story? Who gets to use that piece of material culture? Do you actually believe the thing that you just told me about? So that's everything else that kind of surrounds it. So that's pretty easy because it's like the text is the thing itself, and then the context is like everything else, except for one thing. It's everything except texture. So texture is probably the more nuanced thing that it's a little bit harder to talk about. When we're talking about texture, it is the nuances of the thing itself. So if I'm telling a story and I'm talking like this, and then I drop my voice like that, that's texture, right? I did it maybe in the context of a scary story because I'm getting to the most dramatic point. So as a storyteller, I'm going to use that little bit of nuance, I'm going to use that little bit of texture to really kind of make that text pop. So that might be something I do in the context of a story. So texture can also be just like some of the literary references you can make, the cultural nuances, linguistic nuances that you use. There's a lot of different ways that we can use to describe texture. So a lot of times people even refer to something else that's folklore in the context of texture. So that can be pretty interesting as well. So that could be part of our texture as well as that cultural competency in order to understand what the thing is, especially for maybe the audience if it's something along the lines of telling a story. So text is the thing itself, whatever that thing is. It might be a piece of material culture, it might be a belief, it might be a story, it might be a song. The context is kind of all the stuff that surrounds it, why you tell it, who you're telling it to, what is the purpose of it, a million other things, who is the audience. There's so many things that are really involved in context. So that's the best way to think about it, is text is the thing, context is like almost everything else. And that texture is kind of like the icing on the cake, right? It's the thing that you use to make the thing more interesting. So hopefully that helps a little bit. It actually helps a lot more to just start doing it than it actually is to talk about it.